The cloth slipped from Chika's hand the moment she heard Ryu De-hyun's voice. Smooth, low, dangerous. His study door was slightly ajar, the polished wood catching the morning light, and the reflection of his silhouette glimmered on the glass table she'd been wiping. "I said make sure he walks again," De-hyun murmured into the phone, tone calm enough to chill bone marrow. "Just not properly." His hands touched her. "That's enough reason." Chika's breath caught in her throat. She shouldn't be hearing this. She wasn't even supposed to be this close to the study. She always kept to the kitchen, the halls, the living room, out of sight, out of trouble, out of conversation. But today, a small mistake, wiping the table closest to his office, became a moment she could never unhear. The man continued, voice softening with something that made her stomach dip. "No, don't touch the girl, or her mother, ever. If he tries to go near Chika again, I'll handle it myself." Her name in his mouth sent a sharp, trembling heat down her spine. Not because of desire, though she wasn't sure anymore, but because nobody said her name like that. Not as if it meant something. Caleb. He was talking about Caleb, her ex, Adora's father, the man whose grip still lived on her wrist like a ghost. Chika pressed a shaking hand to her chest, stepping back from the study door. This wasn't normal. This wasn't safe. And yet, her heart wasn't afraid. It was beating too loudly, too fast, too deeply in a way that scared her for a different reason entirely. She didn't want to be important to a man like Ryu De-hyun. He was quiet, polished, unreadable, but the whole city whispered about him. The ghost of the bay. The strategist who made decisions in shadows while living in a penthouse made of light. And now he was speaking violence in her defense, because of a bruise on her face, because he noticed. She backed away so fast her heel bumped the edge of the marble counter. The sound echoed. Loud. Too loud. And before she could slip into the hallway, the study door opened. De-hyun stepped out. He didn't look surprised. He didn't look angry. He only looked at her, deeply, directly, as though she were a puzzle he had already solved. "Chika." His voice was soft now, soft in a way that made her pulse betray her. She kept her eyes down. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overhear anything. I was just cleaning." "You're shaking," he said quietly. "Come here." Her breath hitched. "Sir, it's fine, I'm fine." He took a single step toward her, slow, deliberate. "I told you not to lie to me again." Her heart thudded painfully. "I'm not lying." His gaze lowered to the faint bruise that still lingered on her cheek. She had tried to cover it with makeup, but makeup couldn't hide the past. Or men like Caleb. De-hyun's jaw tightened. Not with anger at her, but with something painfully close to protectiveness or possession. "You think I don't see you," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "But I do. I notice everything you try to hide." She felt the room tilt. His words were too gentle, too intimate. Nobody had seen her in years, not deeply, not carefully. Chika swallowed hard and looked away. "Please don't get involved in my personal life." There was a short, loaded silence. Then he stepped closer, so close she could smell that clean citrus scent on his collar, and said, "It became my business the moment he hurt you." Her breath stilled. Her spine tingled. Her knees almost went weak. "No," she whispered. "It shouldn't have." "Tell me you want me to stop," he murmured. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, because she didn't want him to stop. That was the truth she couldn't say. De-hyun watched her, eyes narrowing slightly at the silence. A sigh slipped from him. Soft, frustrated, almost pained. You shouldn't have to stand alone in this world, he said. You've done it for too long. Her throat tightened, and her eyes burned. She hated that he saw that too. He lifted a hand, slow, giving her time to step back. She didn't. His fingertips hovered near her cheek but didn't touch. This bruise, he said, is not from a fall. Chica flinched. I didn't ask because I needed proof, he added. I asked because I wanted to hear you trust me. Something inside her cracked then. Not open, not fully, but enough that her voice wavered. Why do you care? His eyes softened, the sharpness melting into something far more dangerous. Because you matter to me. A tiny, broken sound escaped her chest. She hadn't cried in front of anyone in years. Before she could respond, a small voice echoed from the hallway. Mummy? Adaora. Her daughter. Chica wiped her eyes quickly and stepped away from Daehyun. His hand lowered instantly, body straightening, emotion shuddering behind a calm mask. Adaora peeked into the room, small and sleepy. Are you done cleaning? I'm hungry. Daehyun's expression shifted again. Gentle, warm, almost shy. Adaora, he greeted softly. Good morning. She brightened. Hi, Uncle Ryu. Chica's heart stilled. When had she started calling him that? When had they gotten that close? Daehyun's eyes flicked to Chica's again. Heavy, unreadable, full of something she wasn't ready to name. I was about to ask your mummy something, he said. Chica stiffened. Adaora tilted her head. Ask her what? Daehyun gave a small, soft smile. Whether the two of you will have dinner with me tonight? Chica's breath caught. Adaora beamed, and somewhere inside her chest, something terrifying and beautiful began to bloom. For a moment, nobody spoke. Adaora bounced on her toes. Dinner? Like, in your big kitchen with the shiny pans? Daehyun smiled. Bigger than that. Somewhere special. Chica found her voice. That's not necessary, sir. We just come to clean. We don't need... He cut in gently. Daehyun. She blinked. What? Stop calling me sir, he said quietly. My name is Daehyun, and I didn't ask you as staff. I asked you as... He hesitated just a fraction. As Chica and Adaora. Adaora clasped her hands dramatically. Mummy, say yes now, now. Chica's heart thudded. Nothing about this was normal. Employees didn't have dinner with their employers. Single immigrant mothers didn't sit in fancy restaurants with men whose names sounded like whispered warnings in the city. We can't afford, she started. I'm inviting you, he said. You're not paying for anything except your time, and maybe your honesty. She frowned. About what? About how you're really doing, he replied simply. Not the version you give everyone else. That was too direct, too intimate. It made her nervous in all the ways that felt like standing near a cliff and liking the view too much. Mummy, please. Adaora tugged at her sleeve. Please, I want to go. Is there jollof? Daehyun let out a low chuckle. We don't have jollof, but I can promise you rice that might try to compete. Adaora gasped. Ah, Mummy, rice is my best friend, please. Chica looked between the two of them, her daughter's hopeful eyes, his steady, waiting gaze. We have other work tonight, she tried weakly. No, we don't, Adaora replied like a tiny, betraying judge. You said after here we'll go home and sleep. Traitor, Chica muttered under her breath. Daehyun's mouth curved. I'll have my driver take you home after. You'll be safe. Safe. Such a big word from a dangerous man. Okay, she said finally, the word feeling reckless. Fine. Dinner. Adaora squealed, throwing her arms around Chica's waist. Daehyun's shoulders relaxed, almost imperceptibly, as if he'd been holding his breath, too. 7 o'clock, he said. I'll send a car. No, no car, Chica said quickly. We'll meet you there. I don't... She struggled to find the right words. Didn't want the whole building to see her stepping into the kind of car that belonged to men like him. We'll come by ourselves. He studied her for a long moment, reading everything she wasn't saying. All right, he murmured. I'll text you the address. You don't have my number, she pointed out. His gaze didn't waver. Then give it to me. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her phone. By the time they left the penthouse that afternoon, Chica could still feel the ghost of his attention on her skin, like warmth that refused to fade. The bus hissed and groaned as it jerked away from the curb. Adaora leaned against the window, talking non-stop. What do you think? We'll eat? Do you think his restaurant has Fanta? He said rice. What if it's small rice? What if it's big rice? Do Korean people like pepper? Chica half listened, half watched the city blur by. Bills waited at home. A second cleaning client had just texted to say they were cutting back. Rent would be due in 10 days. The bruise on her cheek ached dully. And over all of it, like a quiet drumbeat, the memory of his voice. If he tries to go near Chica again, I'll handle it myself. She should be terrified. She should be running far away from any man whose solution to problems sounded like permanent injuries. Instead, she was going to dinner with him, with her child. God have mercy, she whispered under her breath. What did you say, Mummy? Nothing. Wear that your green dress tonight, she said. The one with the flowers. And comb your hair properly. Don't go and disgrace me. Adaora grinned. Is it like a date? Chica choked. Will you keep quiet? Eat your biscuit. By 7 o'clock, the sun had slid low, washing the bay in orange and pink. Chica stood outside a discreet glass-fronted building tucked into a quiet corner of the waterfront. A small sign read, Hanul House. No flashing lights, no noise. Just soft, expensive silence. This place smells nice, Adaora whispered, gripping her hand. It smells like rent money, Chica muttered back, but her lips twitched. Inside, everything felt calm and deliberate. Warm wood, soft lighting, gentle music. Staff moved like they were gliding. A hostess looked up, ready with a polite greeting, but her expression shifted the moment her eyes flicked behind them. Good evening, a familiar voice said. Chica turned. Daehyun stood near the entrance, one hand in his pocket, the other adjusting his cuff. No tie tonight, just a crisp shirt, open at the collar. He didn't look like a criminal, or a myth, or the ghost. He just looked like a man who'd been waiting. You came, he said softly, as if he'd half expected her not to. Adaora let go of Chica's hand and ran toward him without a shred of fear. Uncle Ryu! He crouched to her height, smiling as she crashed into him. The staff were definitely watching now, trying not to stare. You look very beautiful, he told Adaora. Your dress has warriors. They are flowers, she corrected. He nodded gravely. Very strong flowers. Chica's chest tightened. This was wrong. This was dangerous. But watching him talk to her daughter like she mattered made something inside her ache with longing she didn't want to name. He stood and turned to Chica. His gaze moved over her. Slow. Deliberate. Not disrespectful. Just thorough, like she was the only thing in the room worth noticing. You look... He paused, searching for a word that wasn't tired or overworked. Different. I combed my hair, she said dryly. Don't. Get used to it. He smiled, and it was small but real. I'll try not to. He led them to a private corner table near the window, the bay stretching out behind him like a painting. The moment they sat, a server appeared with water, small plates, and a menu that made Chica's eyes widen. There are no prices, she whispered. That's how you know it's dangerous, Adaora announced. Dae-hyun chuckled. Order whatever you like, or I can choose for you. Chika handed the menu back quickly before she embarrassed herself. Choose. Just make sure it's food that won't fight with us. Spicy or not spicy? He asked. Spicy, Adaora and Chika said at the same time, then glanced at each other. He looked pleased. Good. Then I can be honest. Dishes arrived in an elegant sequence, steaming bowls of rice, marinated meat sizzling on hot plates, vegetables in bright, glossy colors. There was something with noodles and black sauce that looked strange but smelled heavenly. What is this one? Adaora asked, pointing. Jjajangmyeon, Dae-hyun said. Black bean noodles. Do you want to try? Adaora squinted suspiciously. It looks like when Mummy forgets pot on fire. Chika almost choked on her water. Ada! Dae-hyun laughed, genuinely amused. You can start with this instead, he said, sliding a plate of crispy chicken toward her. This one is safer. As they ate, the conversation shifted from simple questions to deeper stories. So you grew up here? He asked Chika. She shook her head. Lagos first, then Enugu, then here when I was 19. My uncle said America is where dreams come true. He forgot to mention the nightmares part. His eyes softened. And your parents? Dead, she said simply. Car accident when I was 14. After that, I learned that nobody is coming to save you. You just save yourself or you sink. He was quiet for a moment, absorbing that. You didn't sink, he said finally. You swim with a child on your back. She swallowed. The words hit too close. Sometimes it feels more like drowning slowly, she murmured. Adaora was busy chasing rice grains. Mummy can swim in real life too. In the river in Nigeria, she told me. Chika smiled faintly. Your uncle is not asking that one, my dear. I am, Dae-hyun said. All of it matters. She met his eyes then, seeing something there that scared her, a mix of curiosity, admiration, and a quiet hunger. Not just physical, something deeper, a hunger to know her. What about you? She deflected. Where did you grow up? Busan, South Korea, he replied. My mother ran a small restaurant by the port. My father... He paused. My father taught me that power is the only language some men understand. And your mother? She taught me how to feed people. The answer was so unexpected, so gentle, it made her blink. He went on, looking down at his chopsticks. She used to say, hungry people make bad decisions. Feed them first, then talk. Chika's gaze drifted over the restaurant, the careful service, the way everyone seemed calmer here. Is that why you opened this place? It's one of the reasons, he said. His eyes returned to her face. The other reason is that I needed somewhere to remember I am still human. The words hung between them, raw and honest. She held his gaze, pulse quickening. And are you? He smiled faintly. Trying. As dessert arrived, a bowl of shaved ice topped with fruit, and something that looked like beans but tasted surprisingly sweet, Adaora clapped her hands in delight. This is cold jollof, she declared. It's called bingsu, Dae-hyun corrected gently. Cold jollof, she insisted. He lifted his hands in surrender. Okay, cold jollof. Chika laughed, the sound bubbling up before she could stop it. His eyes warmed instantly, like he'd just been given something precious. You should laugh more, he said softly. Pay my rent and we'll see, she shot back, then bit her tongue. Sorry. Jokin'. Who said I'm not considering it? He replied. Her head snapped up. Don't play with me like that. I don't play with you, he said, the air between them suddenly charged. Not about anything. Her heartbeat stumbled. She looked away, but his words stayed, threading themselves into a part of her that had long been empty. By the time they left Hanul House, night had settled fully over the bay, the lights reflecting on the water like scattered gold. They walked out together, Adaora skipping ahead, humming. At the curb, he turned to her. I'll have the car take you home. We said we'd manage, she protested weakly, and I chose to ignore that, he replied. Let me do this, chica. His use of her name again, low and careful, made her chest tighten. He opened the car door for her, and as she moved past him, his hand brushed her lower back, a light, steady touch that lingered just a second too long. She felt it like a spark, hot and terrifying. Their eyes met, close, the distance between their mouths suddenly very small. Thank you, she whispered. For dinner? He asked. For seeing us, she said. Something shifted in his gaze then, deeper, darker, more certain. I've been seeing you for a long time, chica, he murmured. You're just the one who's only now noticing. Her breath caught. She didn't have an answer for that. So she got into the car, heart pounding, and for the first time in a very long time, she let herself wonder what it would feel like to stop surviving and start being seen. Her world didn't know it yet, but something irreversible had just begun. The next morning should have felt normal. Chica should have woken up, packed Adaora's lunch, tied her own scarf, and rushed into another day of work like always. But nothing felt normal anymore. Not after the way Daehyun looked at her last night. Not after the way his hand lingered at her back. Not after the soft, devastating confession in his eyes when he said he had been seeing her for a long time. That kind of attention from a man like him was dangerous. It made places in her heart wake up that were supposed to remain asleep. At 9:12 a.m., while she was sweeping the small living room of her next client, her phone buzzed. She didn't expect it. She didn't even want to look. But she did. Unknown number. Did you get home safely? Her heart skipped. She typed, deleted, typed again, then finally sent, Yes, thank you. A moment later, another message arrived. Good. I was worried about you. Her knees weakened. She locked the screen quickly and shoved the phone into her apron. Chica, her elderly client called from the bedroom. Are you done sweeping? Yes, Ma, she replied, forcing her voice steady. I'm almost finished. But inside, she was vibrating, emotionally, nervously, dangerously alive. No man should message her while she was cleaning someone else's carpets. And definitely not a man with his kind of power. When she finally got home later that afternoon, Adaora ran to her immediately. Mummy, did you tell Uncle Ryu thank you for the rice? Yes, Chica lied. No, you didn't, Adaora said, squinting suspiciously. Did you tell him thank you for dessert? That one too. You didn't, Chica sighed. Go and do your homework. But Mummy, homework! Adaora stomped away dramatically, muttering something about mummies who don't appreciate noodles. Chica shook her head and exhaled. She should not be thinking about Daehyun. She should be thinking about rent, electricity, groceries, school fees. But when her phone buzzed again, she grabbed it too fast. Daehyun. Are you free this evening? I want to talk to you. Chica hesitated. Talking was not good. Talking meant emotions. Talking meant trouble. Before she could overthink further, her phone rang. It was not him. It was Detective Harris. "Ms. Okafor," he began without preamble. "I need to discuss something with you regarding a complaint filed by Mr. Caleb Morris." Chica froze. Her entire body turned cold. "What complaint?" "He claims you've been harassing him and threatening to keep him away from his daughter. He also says you're getting help from questionable people." Her heart dropped like a stone. "What?" she whispered. No, I didn't do anything." "I understand. But legally he's made a report. I have to follow procedure." Her hand shook as she held the phone. "Am I in trouble?" "Just come by the station tomorrow for a statement," the detective said gently. "We'll sort it out." When the call ended, her vision blurred. This was what she'd feared. This was what she'd told Dae-hyun. If Caleb felt threatened, he'd retaliate in the only way he could, through the system and Dae-hyun's involvement. God. She couldn't breathe. Her phone buzzed again. "Dae-hyun." "Chica?" Another message came quickly. "Is something wrong?" She shouldn't tell him. She should not tell him. But her fingers moved on their own. "Caleb filed something against me. The police called. They want me to come tomorrow." His reply came in less than 10 seconds. "I'll handle it." She closed her eyes, swallowing panic. "No, don't! Chica, please don't touch anything, don't call anyone, don't make it worse." There was a long pause, long enough for her heartbeat to echo painfully in her ears. Then, "I'm coming to see you." "No." A final message appeared. It wasn't a question. 20 minutes later, there was a firm knock on her door. Adaora jumped. "Is it delivery?" "No," Chica whispered shakily. "Go to your room." "But Mummy, now." Chica smoothed her wrapper, took a deep breath, and opened the door. Dae-hyun stood there, framed by the evening light. Black coat, sharp jaw, eyes burning with something between anger and worry. "Where is he?" he demanded. "What?" "Caleb. Did he come here? Did he threaten you again?" "No," she whispered urgently. "Dae-hyun, stop, lower your voice." Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him, scanning the apartment as though expecting danger. He looked enormous in her small space. Too tall, too controlled, too out of place. And yet, somehow, like he belonged there more than she did. "Tell me everything," he said. "I just spoke to the detective," she whispered. "Caleb filed complaints. He's lying. He's trying to scare me. He's trying to control you." Dae-hyun's voice was low, furious. "And he thinks the law will protect him from consequences." "That's why you can't interfere," she said, stepping back. "If anything happens to him, it will come back to me. Or Adaora." He moved closer, not threateningly, but with an intensity that made her breath stutter. "I told you yesterday," he murmured. "I won't let anyone hurt you again." "And I told you I don't want your help," she shot back. "I don't want violence. I don't want your world touching mine." His jaw clenched. "My world already touched yours the moment he put that bruise on your face." Her breath broke. Tears gathered despite her trying to blink them away. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Why me?" He inhaled slowly, the kind of breath someone takes before telling a truth that makes them vulnerable. "Because I care about you," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "More than I should. More than I planned to." Her heart squeezed painfully. "Don't say things like that," she whispered. "Please." "Why?" he asked softly, stepping closer. "Because you know it's true? Because you feel something too?" She turned her face away. It doesn't matter. You're dangerous. And I have a daughter. He reached out, gently turning her chin back to face him. Exactly, he murmured. And that's why I care even more. Her eyes filled. She didn't want these feelings. She didn't want this risk. Yet the warmth of his fingers, the sincerity in his voice, the raw honesty in his eyes, it was too much. You're going to ruin my life, she whispered. He leaned in, breath warm against her cheek. No, Chica, I'm trying to save it. Her heart stuttered violently. Then Adaora's small voice floated from the hallway. Mummy? Why are you crying? Chica jolted away from him, wiping her eyes quickly. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. Daehyun looked at Adaora, and something softened in him. Something tender, almost protective. Hi, little one, he said gently. It's late. Did you eat dinner? No, Adaora said, eyes large. We ate bread. Mummy was worried. Is that so? He murmured. Then to Chica. Let me take you both out, just to eat. Nothing else. No, Chica breathed. Not tonight. I can't think straight. He swallowed, nodding slowly. All right, but I'm staying until you calm down. She wanted to protest, but her body was shaking, and being near him made her want to collapse into something warm and safe. So she nodded weakly. He sat on the couch. Adaora climbed beside him immediately, curling up as if she'd known him her entire life. Chica stood across the room, arms wrapped around herself. Daehyun looked at her with quiet, unwavering devotion. We'll get through this, he said softly. I promise. And for the first time in years, she almost believed someone's promise. The apartment felt too quiet after Adaora finally fell asleep on Daehyun's lap. Her small hand clutched the sleeve of his coat, her breathing soft and steady. He didn't dare move, as if he'd been entrusted with something sacred. Chica stood by the counter, arms crossed tightly over her chest, watching them with a mix of fear, longing, and something she didn't want to name. A man like him shouldn't look that natural, holding a child that wasn't his. He shouldn't fit so easily into her living room. Its peeling paint, its second-hand furniture, its air of struggle. Nothing about this felt real, yet everything felt dangerously perfect. After a long, heavy silence, Daehyun spoke softly, not looking up. I can fix the complaint, Chica. She stiffened instantly. No. You don't understand what he's playing at, he continued. Caleb doesn't want custody. He wants control. He wants to punish you for leaving him. The moment he feels threatened, he'll escalate. He already has. I can handle him, she said, though her voice wavered. Daehyun finally looked at her, eyes dark and unwavering. You shouldn't have to. Chica swallowed. It's not about pride. It's about safety. If anything happens to him, the police will look at me. They'll ask questions. They'll wonder why someone like you is involved in my life. They will think I'm unstable or irresponsible. And you're not, he said quietly. You are the strongest, most responsible woman I've ever met. Her breath caught painfully in her throat. He added, voice even softer. And you deserve someone who stands beside you. She looked away quickly. You can't stand beside me, not without consequences. I don't care about consequences. You should, she whispered. You're not just a man. You're you. People watch you. They talk about you. They fear you. Do you fear me? He asked gently. She forced herself to meet his eyes. No, and that's the worst part. He inhaled sharply, as if her honesty pierced him directly. Chica came closer, her voice trembling. Daehyun, whatever this is, whatever you're trying to be for me, it's too much, too fast, too dangerous. I can't afford this. I can't afford you. You don't have to afford me, he murmured. Just trust me. She let out a shaky laugh. You say that like trust is cheap. He slowly shifted Adaora's sleeping form and laid her gently on the small couch pillow. Then he stood and crossed the room toward Chica, every step slow and deliberate. She didn't move. Couldn't move. He stopped just inches from her. Chica, he whispered. I know you're scared. I know you feel like letting anyone close will break the balance holding your life together. But I'm not trying to tip it over. I'm trying to hold it with you. Her eyes glistened. Why? He exhaled slowly, his voice raw. Because you walked into my life with a bruise you tried to hide. And instead of pretending you were fine to get attention, you pretended you were fine to survive. Her breath trembled. He lifted a hand, giving her a moment to pull back. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, barely a touch, but it sent heat through her entire body. You don't know how many nights I've watched you clean this penthouse quietly, he whispered. Carefully, like you were trying not to disturb the air. You think I didn't notice your humming? The way you straighten things when you're nervous? The way you always leave a small folded napkin by the sink because you think I might be thirsty later? Her eyes widened. She had never told him any of that. She never thought he noticed. He noticed everything. And then you walked in with a bruise, he murmured, and for the first time in 15 years I felt something like fear. Fear that someone had hurt. He hesitated, voice dropping. Someone I cared about. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Stop, she whispered. Don't say things like that. He leaned closer. Why not? Because you mean them, she choked out. And I can't afford anyone meaning anything to me. You can, he breathed. You can afford me. I'm not here to take from you. I'm here to give. She shook her head. I don't need saving. I know, he said. But I need you. Her breath stuttered violently. He gently wiped a tear from her cheek, his thumb warm, slow, tender. I'm supposed to be invisible, she whispered. That's how I survive. People don't see me. They don't care. That's how it's been my whole life. I see you, he murmured, leaning closer. I've been seeing you. You're the only real thing in my world. Her heart cracked open, raw and exposed. She whispered, barely audible, This is too much. No, he said softly. This is enough. For both of us. He cupped her face gently, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Their foreheads touched. Her breath trembled. His lips hovered inches from hers, waiting, not taking, not demanding, just waiting. Chica, he whispered. If this is wrong, tell me now. I'll stop. She closed her eyes. I don't want you to stop. His exhale was shaky, almost relieved. And then he kissed her. Soft. Slow. Like he was memorizing the shape of her mouth. Like he'd been waiting years to do this one simple thing. Her hands slid up to his chest, clutching his shirt as if grounding herself. His fingers curled behind her neck, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss with a tenderness that melted every part of her resistance. When they finally pulled apart, breathing uneven, he rested his forehead against hers. You're dangerous, she whispered. So are you, he murmured back. You're the only one who can ruin me. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed sharply between them. The sound cut the moment like a knife. She stepped back, breath shaking, wiping her mouth. I should check that. He nodded, but his eyes stayed on her, heavy with longing and worry. She grabbed her phone and froze when she saw the message. Detective Harris. Caleb just escalated the complaint. He added concerns about your daughter's safety. Please come first thing tomorrow. Her blood ran cold. Daehyun immediately noticed the change in her expression. What happened? She swallowed hard. He's trying to take a Daora from me. Daehyun's entire posture changed. His jaw clenched, his eyes darkened. Something dangerous slid into his expression like a shadow taking form. Then he has just declared war, he said quietly. Chika's voice cracked. Daehyun, please, don't do anything. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, there was no softness behind them. Only absolute, terrifying resolve. He threatened your child, he murmured. You think I can ignore that? She stepped back, panic flooding her veins. Promise me you won't hurt him. He shook his head slowly. I can't promise that. Daehyun! He stepped closer, gripping her shoulders gently but firmly. Listen to me. You are not losing Adeora. I will not let that happen. You don't have that power, she whispered. I do, he said. More than you know. Before she could argue, Adeora stirred on the couch, and the moment shattered again. Daehyun softened instantly, lowering his voice. I'll handle the complaint legally first, but if he crosses another line... His jaw tightened. I won't be patient. Chika felt her chest constrict, torn between terror and the sickening warmth of being defended so fiercely. I should go, Daehyun whispered. Before I do something I can't take back tonight. She nodded numbly. As he opened the door, he turned back to her. This isn't over, he said softly. Not the complaint. Not us. And then he left, quiet as a shadow, heavy as a storm. Chika stood there long after the door clicked shut, heart trembling, lips swollen from his kiss, and life unraveling faster than she could gather it. For the first time, she truly understood. This man would burn the world for her, and that terrified her more than anything. Chika barely slept. Every sound in the apartment that night felt sharper, heavier, filled with the weight of what was coming. She lay awake beside Daeora, watching her daughter's small chest rise and fall, feeling a terror she couldn't swallow. If Caleb actually pushed for custody, if the police believed his lies, if Daehyun's involvement made everything worse, her entire world could collapse in a day. When dawn crept through the window, Chika rose quietly, washed her face, tied her scarf, and held Daeora for an extra long moment before walking her to school. Mummy, why are you squeezing me like meat? Daeora giggled. Because I love you, Chika whispered into her hair. More than the world. When they parted, Chika forced herself not to look back. At the police station, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and cold metal chairs lined the waiting area. She sat with her hands clasped tightly together, trying to steady her breath. Detective Harris approached. Ms. Okafor, let's talk. She followed him into a small interview room. The table was scratched, the walls gray. It felt like a place where lives changed. Caleb claims you've been keeping him away from his daughter, intentionally, the detective began. He says he fears you might disappear with her. Chika stared at him. Disappear where? I work 2 cleaning jobs. I barely have enough for bus fare. Detective Harris nodded gently. I understand. But he also claimed you've been in contact with people connected to organized crime. Her breath froze. I haven't, she blurted out. I don't know anyone like that. He hesitated, then slid a file across the table. Inside was a photo. Grainy, slightly blurred, but unmistakable. Her, Daeora, walking out of Hanul House, Daehyun holding the door open for them. Chika's throat burned. That's just dinner. He's my employer. The detective paused. He's more than an employer to you, isn't he? Her heart hammered violently. No. He studied her face. Be honest with me. If there's any involvement with someone dangerous, it could affect custody. Her voice cracked. I'm not involved in anything. I'm just trying to live. Detective Harris sighed and closed the folder. Look, off record? I believe you. But Caleb is determined. And when someone pushes this hard, it means there's more behind it. There was more behind it. A man who moved shadows. A man who watched everything. A man who kissed her like she mattered. The detective leaned forward. If there's anything you aren't telling me that could help your case, now's the time. She shook her head miserably. I have nothing. He nodded reluctantly. All right, we'll continue the evaluation. As she walked out of the station, she felt eyes on her. A chill crawled over her spine. A black sedan was parked across the street. The back window rolled down. Dae-hyun's eyes met hers. She marched toward him, anger and fear boiling together. When she reached the window, she hissed, "Are you following me?" He didn't look ashamed. I told you, when it comes to you and Adaora, I don't leave anything to chance. What did you do? She demanded. Tell me you didn't hurt him. If I had, he said coldly, you would know. Dae-hyun, get in the car, he said softly. Please. She froze. The please undid her. Against her better judgment, she got in. Inside, the leather smelled clean, warm, familiar, too safe. He turned to her, face tight with tension. I made some calls last night. You promised legal, she whispered. I kept that promise, he said. For now. Her stomach twisted. What did you do? I spoke to a friend in social services. Caleb's record is interesting. Her breath shook. What does that mean? He has multiple warnings for aggression, Dae-hyun replied. And a co-worker filed a concern about him raising his voice at a child. Chika's eyes widened. None of this is on public record, he continued, but it exists. And now, so do several character statements from people who've seen you raise your daughter alone. Chika covered her mouth with her hands. What? Your neighbors, some clients, even your pastor. They told the truth about you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She didn't cry from weakness, but from the strain of holding everything together alone for so long. Dae-hyun reached out carefully. Chika. No, she whispered, shaking her head. Don't comfort me. I can't think straight when you're close to me. He lowered his hand, but his voice softened. You won't lose her. Not while I'm alive. That's the part that scares me, she choked out. You make promises like they're weapons. Because I keep them. I don't want you dying for me, she cried. I don't want you killing for me. I don't want Adaora growing up around danger. He exhaled shakily. You think I want to bring danger to you? I don't. Everything in me wants to protect you from it. But you are danger, she whispered. You can change your clothes, your restaurants, your voice, but you're still a man people fear. He swallowed hard. What if I don't want to be feared anymore? She froze. He continued, voice trembling slightly. What if meeting you made me want something else, something clean, something real, a life that doesn't wear blood on it? Her throat tightened painfully. Don't say things you don't mean, she whispered. I have never meant anything more, he murmured. Chika, when I'm with you, something in me quiets, something in me softens, something in me changes, and I don't know how to be without that anymore. Her heart stuttered. He reached for her hand. Not forceful, not demanding, just a quiet invitation. She didn't pull away. He released a shaky breath. I want to be a part of your life, and Adora's, not to control you, not to own you, but because I love you. Her breath froze. No one had said those words to her in years, certainly not a man like him, certainly not with sincerity trembling in his voice. You can't, she whispered. You can't love me. You don't even know how. He squeezed her hand gently. I'm learning. Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. And what if I ruin everything? She whispered. What if your world breaks mine? Then I will build yours back first, he murmured, and let mine fall. Her chest cracked wide open. She whispered, barely audible, I love you too. His breath caught, sharp, fragile, real, and then he pulled her into his arms, holding her like the only moment that mattered. Like the world outside the car didn't exist. His hand cradled the back of her head, his cheek pressed against her hair, his heart beating fast against hers. It wasn't a passionate kiss this time. It wasn't hunger. It was surrender. When they finally pulled apart, he whispered, Let's go pick up our daughter. Her heart stumbled on that word, our. But she didn't correct him. At the school gate, Adeora ran toward them, smiling so brightly it made the entire world feel lighter. Uncle Ryu! She yelled, flinging herself into his arms before Chika could even react. He lifted her easily, resting her on his hip. Did you have a good day? Yes, we painted. And Mummy said you're helping. Us. He smiled, but his eyes softened into something deeper, something like belonging. Always, he murmured. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time, Chika believed it. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. She didn't know how things would unfold. But one thing was clear. They were no longer three separate lives. They were becoming one. They walked away together, Chika, Daehyun, and Adeora, hand in hand, stepping into a future that was terrifying, fragile, complicated, and beautifully theirs. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more gripping romance stories like this one. Your support helps us create more emotional, heart-stealing content just for you. Thank you for watching.